Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today, we're jumping into some malicious compliance. Our first story today comes to us from Unused Thought. Stop what I'm doing so you can install a surveillance camera? Whatever you say. Let's jump right in. So, a bit of a preface here before we get started. If you're not familiar with industrial painting, not your average house paint, we have to mix in catalysts to make product work. Let junior high science take it from there. Recently, during the whole COVID downturn, I went back to one of my original trades to pay the bills and picked up a gig in a coating shop. The department manager has never picked up a spray gun once, allegedly did some blasting 20 years back, but is generally lost in all aspects of the job, aside from gouging customers and employees to line his pockets. I guess I should mention, him and his brother are the owners as well, so the ripping off is fully condoned. So recently, they had the bright idea to install new security cameras to find who keeps leaving doors in the shop open on weekends. Truth is, they like to obsessively watch the cameras instead of actually going to the shops to look or actually doing something. And I'm fairly sure it's drunk owners wandering the shop at night, but that's another story. The day comes around that the tech comes by as I'm spraying, ignoring the big light and sign saying stay out due to fumes and such, and stops me to ask where he can come install. And I tell him about 3 hours until I'm done, clean my pot and pew-pew, and let the room settle and paint set, as he has to bring in a lift and I don't want dust or cold air coming in while the coating sets. Tech accepts the answer, goes to do his other installs, and then our hapless manager wanders in, screaming why the new camera isn't set up yet. He tells me that it has to be set up right now and to stop my job and go do some paperwork instead. I explain that my catalyst is live and I have maybe 90 minutes before the whole batch flashes and destroys the pot, line, and gun, costing about $1,000 all in on a good day with their cheap parts. He won't have any of it and unplugs my air feed. So I dropped my pew-pew, grabbed my stuff, and went out to do a couple estimates that ate up the day, and manager couldn't bother to do them. Next morning, I go about seeing if I can at least salvage the pew-pew from the mess, and in comes the manager and his brother, wondering why I'm taking the pew-pew apart, which is routine maintenance for cleaning and filters if you know your basics, and not spraying. I asked how they knew what I was doing, playing a poor game of being ignorant, and they pointed to the camera. So then, I pointed and asked about being stopped and not allowed to clean my tools. Being a bit of a meticulous note-taker, my book has when I stopped that job and went to estimating, which lines up with when the camera came online, which by then was past the kick time for the paint. But the priority was to get that camera up, to watch and not understand what I do for a living. So now, I have a brand new assembly being shipped out, complete with the shiny new Binks pew-pew and tips on corporate expense, because the eyes watching from above knew more than the peon just chipping away at his day. The best kicker, the client was in to survey progress this afternoon, explaining why I'm nearly a week behind due to an electric eye was a great time. I pointed him towards the office of Mordor to ask his questions. Now, OP mentioned in a comment down below that this wasn't an actual spray booth, it wasn't ventilated properly, so there could be a quote-unquote chance that camera just happens to get covered in paint, when OP accidentally sprays it that way. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our next story today comes to us from Iteration 5. Tickets, please. Let's jump right in. It's been more than 20 years. I think I can get away with talking about this. In the late 1990s, I worked for the internal help desk of a Fortune 500 company. Employees would call in and enter their employee number into the phone system, and when we answered the call, we had a system that automatically opened a problem ticket with the employee number, which would pre-fill the rest of the ticket. Until it didn't. It started slowly at first, maybe one call out of 10 was coming up with the wrong employee's information. And this was annoying, because first, we'd have to close the ticket that was opened in error, then we'd have to open a new ticket. So my boss went to the team that was responsible for fixing it, and they said, sure, just have your agents open a ticket for our team every time there's a problem. And almost nobody did this, because filling out a ticket takes time, and there was a customer on the phone already waiting for us to close out one ticket. Within a few days, it was every call that was affected, and my boss goes back to the tools team, who are sitting with their feet metaphorically propped up on the desk saying, well, we need a ticket for every call that's going off, or we can't do anything about it. My boss explodes. As it stands, the average call time for the desk is up by more than a minute, which is way worse than it sounds because we're talking about several thousand calls a day. It's just not reasonable or possible for them to expect, and that's where the tools team made their mistake. They pointed out that there was one agent whose call times were completely unaffected and who was, in fact, generating a ticket for every single call. That agent was me. That's when my boss shows up in my office and asks, okay, how the hell are you doing it? I shrugged. Macros. Basically, the system we were using for tickets was on a mainframe, and we accessed it through an advanced kind of terminal program that had macro functionality. I created macros for our most common types of tickets, and when the problem first started, I created a macro that would close the ticket out and open a new one. When we were told to create a ticket for the tools team, I modified that macro to copy the ticket number before it closed out the ticket, then create a new ticket for the tools team and reference the old ticket number, send it, and open a new ticket. I was actually kind of astonished to learn that nobody else was doing this because it was childishly simple. And because literally every single affected employee was a tech, all it took to deploy the macro to everyone on the desk was an email with an attached file and instructions how to install it. A few days later, there's a backlog of over 10,000 tickets and climbing in the tool team's queue. The head of the tools team has gotten a call from his manager's manager because it's the largest backlog of tickets in the history of the company, and he goes to my boss and asks him to have us stop. No, you said you needed every single agent to open a ticket for every single affected call, or you couldn't trace the problem. Well, maybe if you had just one agent, we had that. You told us it was insufficient, that you couldn't do anything without that kind of information. Well, now you have it. We've had this problem for over a week now, and you haven't been able to fix it. I want to make sure you have all the tickets you need to solve this problem. The problem was fixed within 4 hours. 2 days later, the head of the tools team is in my office. It turns out that he's got somewhere in the neighborhood of 20,000 tickets to close, and could I please show him how to use macros? Does anybody else think they should have looked at this guy and said, yeah, but you have to open a ticket for that first? And if they actually did go open a ticket, then you just respond to that ticket with a link to a website that talks about how to create macros. Our next story today comes to us from Dream of Days. Bitching about poor service? Enjoy waiting 6 months. Let's jump right in. For context, I work at an office where part of our job is sending out orders for medical equipment for patients. Currently, there is a global recall for a big brand name of the machines we use. Local companies can't get the machines they need for patients because almost all the equipment being produced is being sent out as replacements for the recalled machines. Last I heard, some companies had wait lists hundreds of patients long and were only getting 20 machines a month. Today, a patient called and we had a conversation that went something like this. Hello, this is doctor's office, anonymous speaking. How can I help you? Hi, Company A called me earlier about an appointment to pick up my machine and they were extremely rude to me. Goes on a rant for 2 minutes while I patiently waited out. Do you have any local companies that won't bother me with appointments to pick up my machine? We have a couple of companies that are local. Let me give you the names and phone numbers so you can see which one would be better for you. Can't you just pick one? Well, Company B starts listing off details. Patient cutting me off. Just pick one. I took it in stride. Sure, Company C it is. Now, are you sure about changing companies? You'll be put on the bottom of the wait list. Yes, I'm sure. Just send my order to C and cancel my order with A. I hate dealing with them. One last question. Is your machine part of the recall? You can call. No, it ain't part of no damn recall. It broke and I'm getting it replaced. Do you understand? Sure thing, ma'am. I'll get the order sent out right away. I put the paperwork together and called Company A to cancel the order. Since we deal with them on a daily basis, our staff are on a first-name basis with each other. I learned from the same employee who dealt with this patient that Company A has been trying to call this patient to schedule a pickup for their machine for the past week or so, but the patient never picks up their phone. And by the time the patient calls back days later, the machine was picked up by another patient on the wait list. The patient got snappy and bitched at them for not doing their jobs right, and promised they'd take their business elsewhere. I shared a laugh with the poor employee who had to deal with this patient, and they voided the order. I sent the order to Company C and called just to check how many people are on their wait list. 393. Estimated wait time 4 to 6 months. The patient's machine isn't even a recalled model, so they can't go through that channel for a replacement. They're stuck unless they want to pay out of pocket $900 plus for a new machine from an online supplier who 100% won't take her insurance plan. Even then, that assumes she'd find a place that has the machine she needs. There's a general consensus in the comments for this one that they're talking about the Philips CPAP machine that has a major recall. For some people, this is an absolutely essential device. You'd think they wouldn't be yelling at people on the phone about it and would be like offering them bribes and trying to get this thing as quickly as they could. Our next story today comes to us from Public Pressure 4516. Dog Park Compliance. Let's jump right in. Dog park people, they come in all flavors, but some of them are a little spicy for me, so I tend to go in the early morning when nobody is there. A few days ago, I arrived to a seemingly empty park and let my 2 dogs into the gate. As I undid their leashes, I hear a woman screaming at me to close the gate. There, at the far end of the park, were 2 women with their dogs. As I was currently blocking the gate, I was a bit surprised, but she's probably just having a bad day. I comply wordlessly. I take a few steps and put a ball in my dog chucker. Again, startled by the screaming woman, "No!" I look up. "Don't throw the ball in my direction." The park is a rectangle. Where am I supposed to throw it? And it's 7 in the freaking morning. And so far, I've been screamed at twice for doing perfectly normal dog park things. And I, sometimes, will say things without thinking first. So I am shocked when I hear myself screaming back cheerily, "Yes, boss," channeling my inner cool hand Luke, I guess. She yells, "What?" I shout, "Yes, boss, throwing that ball, boss." I throw my ball down the length of the dog park as far away from her as I can manage. "My dog doesn't like other dogs," she shouts. And I get that, but maybe she could communicate that and her gate shutting concerns without screaming commands. Maybe talk to people like they're, people. "Yes, boss," I say, which pretty much sums up my feelings on the matter. She aggressively yanked her poor dog's leash. Perhaps she was just not a fan of the legendary actor Paul Newman, and headed for the gate. "Keep them away from my dog." "Throwing that ball, boss," I offered as confirmation. She marched out of the park, taking a little long at the gate in my opinion. Today, when I pulled up, she was there again. I gave her a friendly wave and was waiting to see if we were going to get a repeat performance. But boss staged a very dramatic exit before I even got out of the car. Thank you, cool hand Luke, my ideal of social interaction apparently. I think the main thing to ask here is if her dog doesn't like other dogs, why is she taking it to a public dog park where there's gonna be, other dogs? I also get the argument that she's going there first thing in the morning so that there won't be other dogs there, while OP's going there first thing in the morning because there won't be other people there. But I think the onus is on her to pack up her dogs and leave if they don't like being around other dogs. But I will put a little end note on that I don't have a dog, so I don't really know the rules of the dog park. So comment down below. Who do you think was in the right here? Who should have to leave? And, just make sense of this situation for me, because I don't get it. Our last story today comes to us from Some Mathematician 38. Need permission to leave the office? Okay, let's jump right in. This was a few years ago when I was working in China. Our company moved office from Hong Kong to Shenzhen. Our sales had reduced a fair bit, hence the move to save money. Our 2 bosses were old school and believed best marketing was word of mouth and never bothered to advertise our business. I tried and tried to make them reconsider, but they would not have it. I was living rent-free in their apartment. My salary was reduced 50%. I agreed to work 8 to 12:30 as long as I could still live there and they would still keep my working visa. They agreed. I spent the first month enjoying my half days and going to the gym, walking, etc., and exploring Shenzhen. I had made some friends and applied for a part-time job in an education center in Shenzhen, helping with sales and teacher recruitment. I was working 3 to 9 p.m. I did not tell anyone about this job and emailed my bosses to ask about a salary increase since we were working almost full-time again. No reply. So 12:30 came, my laptop and work phone were switched off. I went to my new job. At this time, the offices were part of the school. What I found weird was we only had 2 teachers, but a lot of students. They even tried asking me to teach some classes. Hell no, that is not my job. My first day, the teachers warned me about their boss and my colleague. He was the head of the department, but not my direct boss. Let's call him K. I worked 6 hours. I got a 45-minute break at 6 to 6:45. This school was part of a shopping center, so we had to go into the shopping center to use the bathroom. K was a complete micromanaging control freak. Shenzhen during summer is like walking around in a sauna. It is 36 degrees and feels like 45. I used to travel to work by bus, and it would take me about an hour. I would wear shorts, t-shirt, and flip-flops to work. I would always arrive early, around 2:15 p.m., cool down for 30 minutes, then get changed and ready for work. K did not like this. I had to arrive at 2:55 p.m. dressed ready to work. I said I am. No, you have to arrive at the school in your work clothes. Did not say that in my contract, but okay, I will do that. New guy did not want to argue. After a week or so at the job, they again asked me to teach some classes as they were having to hire many part-time teachers, which cost them more money than full-time. I said no. I am not even a qualified teacher. Not sure that is legal. We now had 3 teachers, but one was transferring, and he specifically said it was because of K. We had previously had another 2 teachers who also left because of K. I was the only foreigner in our office in teacher recruitment, managing our online database, calling teachers for interviews, helping with their documents, etc. K comes into the office and asks me where I was for 20 minutes. I said the bathroom. Now I need to tell him when I leave for the bathroom, also where I'm going for my 45 minutes break. I ask why, in case he needs me. I said, "You're not my boss. You have no need to know where I am." He states technically he is the department lead, so he does need to know. I ask if all of the Chinese staff ask permission to use the bathroom, or just me. They laugh and he leaves. Cue malicious compliance. K was also a teacher to English beginners. He is teaching a class. I knock on the door. He looks shocked. I open the door and ask in Chinese, so the students understand, "Can I go to the bathroom, please?" He is pissed, but he says yes. 6 p.m., I walk in the office and give him the address loudly of where I'm going for lunch. At the same time, I am emailing my boss saying I am shocked that the dress code changed. Not allowed to wear these colored shoes anymore. I have to arrive early, dressed, and not allowed to change. Bathroom permissions, etc., stating all of it. My boss was pissed. He already knew about all of the complaints against K, but I think this was the final straw. He calls me up and I explain everything to him. About 1 month later, K was removed as head and became just an English teacher. I worked there part-time for 1 year before leaving for a better job full-time. Funny thing was, as soon as he was demoted, he was a nice colleague to talk to. So OP, you mentioned that there was no training at this place. Is there a possibility that the stress of trying to fill this role was what was making him be a major butthole? Because there was no training for him to do what he was doing, he might have been flying by the seat of his pants. This is made all the more evident by the fact that his mood changed as soon as he was demoted to just a teacher position. It's like the stress was lifted off of his shoulders. Check out all 5 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.